Welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard. Over the past two episodes, we have explored two important ideas. First, that character matters more than talent. Second, that basketball is more than a game and serves a vehicle for human development. Today, I would like to continue that conversation by examining a question that sits at the heart of coaching itself. What makes a great coach? At first glance, the answer appears obvious. Great coaches understand the game. They possess technical knowledge. They understand strategy, tactics, skill development, and performance. They know how to organize practices, prepare teams, and compete successfully. These things certainly matter. It would be difficult to argue that a coach can be effective without understanding the activity that they are teaching. Yet, the longer I have spent in coaching, the more I convince I have become that technical knowledge alone is insufficient. In fact, if we were to ask former athletes to describe the most influential coach they ever had, it's unlikely that many would begin by discussing offensive systems or practice plans. They would probably tell stories. They would talk about moments. They would remember conversations. They would describe how a particular coach made them feel, how that coach responded during difficult times, or how that coach influenced their life beyond the court. This observation raises an interesting question, though. If coaching were primarily about knowledge, then the coaches with the most information would always have the greatest impact. Yet, experience suggests something different. Some coaches possess extraordinary knowledge and leave little lasting impression. Others influence people for decades. But why? Perhaps because coaching has never really been about information alone. Coaching is ultimately about people. One of the most overlooked realities in sport is that athletes are rarely searching only for technical instruction. While they certainly want to improve their skills and performance, many are also searching for something deeper. They want to know whether someone believes in them. They want to know whether someone sees potential in them. They want to know whether they matter beyond what they produce. This becomes particularly important during moments of adversity. Success has a way of hiding many weaknesses. When athletes are playing well, receiving recognition, and achieving their goals, confidence often comes easily. The true test emerges when circumstances become difficult. Injuries occur, playing time decreases, mistakes accumulate, confidence disappears all of a sudden, and expectations are not met. It is during these moments that athletes often discover what kind of coach they have, and coaches discover what kind of leader they are. Anyone can celebrate success. Great coaches know how to guide people through struggle. This is one of the reasons I believe coaching and teaching share so many similarities. Both involve much more than transferring knowledge. The best teachers do not merely deliver information, they create environments where learning becomes possible. They challenge students while simultaneously supporting them. They establish standards while maintaining relationships. They understand that growth often occurs when people feel both challenged and valued. Great coaching operates in much the same way. The challenge, however, is that many people confuse authority with influence. The two are not the same. Authority comes from a title. A coach possesses authority because of their position. Athletes listen because the organizational structure requires it. Influence, however, comes from trust. Athletes follow influential coaches because they believe in them. They trust in their intentions. They trust their character. They trust that the demands being placed upon them exist for their development rather than the coach's ego. This distinction is critically important because authority can control behavior for a period of time. Influence shapes lives. The coaches who remain in our memories are often the ones who earned influence rather than relying solely on authority. They challenged us because they cared. They held us accountable because they believed we were capable of more. They demanded excellence because they wanted us to grow. Interestingly, athletes are often far more willing to accept difficult coaching when they believe the relationship is genuine. The high standards are rarely the problem. The absence of trust is usually the problem. When athletes trust a coach, they often embrace challenges that would otherwise seem unreasonable. They work harder. They listen more carefully. They become more receptive to feedback. Not because the work has become easier, but because they understand the purpose behind it. This leads to another question that I find increasingly important. What is the ultimate objective of coaching? Is it winning? Certainly winning matters. Is it performance? Well, performance matters as well. Is it the championships? Well, those achievements have value. Yet, if these outcomes represent the ultimate purpose of coaching, then many coaches will eventually find themselves disappointed. Athletic careers are temporary. Seasons, they come and go. Championships are celebrated and eventually replaced by new championships. The deeper purpose of coaching must extend beyond results. I believe great coaches understand that their primary responsibility is not simply to develop better athletes. Their primary responsibility is to develop better people through athletics. That distinction may appear subtle, but it changes everything. Suddenly, practice is no longer just basketball, it becomes an opportunity to teach discipline. Competition becomes an opportunity to teach resilience. Teamwork becomes an opportunity to teach service and humility. Adversity becomes an opportunity to teach perseverance and character. The game remains important, but the person becomes more important. Faith has profoundly shaped my understanding of this idea. One of the most consistent themes within faith is the belief that people possess value beyond what they achieve. Their worth is not determined by performance, status, recognition, or accomplishment. They matter because they are human beings created with dignity, purpose, and potential. When this perspective enters coaching, the entire relationship changes. Athletes are no longer viewed primarily as performers. They become individuals entrusted to our care. Their growth matters. Their development matters. Their future matters. Their character matters. This doesn't make coaching softer. If anything, it makes coaching more demanding because caring about people requires more than organizing practices and designing strategies. It requires patience. It requires listening. It requires consistency. It requires the willingness to invest in another person's growth, often without receiving immediate recognition in return. In many ways, coaching becomes an act of service. The best coaches understand that leadership is not about being the most important person in the room. Leadership is about helping others become more than they currently believe they can become. Years from now, most athletes will forget many of the details that once seemed important. They will forget scouting reports or specific drills that they did. They will forget many scores and stats, yet they often remember the people who influenced them. They remember the coach who believed in them when they doubted themselves. They remember the coach who challenged them to grow. They remember the coach who held them accountable. They remember the coach who treated them with dignity and respect. Most importantly, they remember the coach who helped them become a better version of themselves. Perhaps that's why great coaches are remembered long after the final buzzer sounds. Their impact was never confined to the game itself, it extended into lives, relationships, careers, families. and communities. As we conclude today's episode, I want to leave you with a simple question. Think about a most influential coach, teacher, mentor, or leader you have ever encountered. What made them influential? Chances are it was not simply what they knew, it was how they cared, how they listened, how they challenged, how they believed, how they invested in others. Perhaps that's the true heart of coaching, not simply helping people perform better, helping people become better. Because great coaches are remembered less for what they know and more for who they help people become. Thank you for joining me for episode 3 of Beyond the Scoreboard. Until next time, continue pursuing excellence, continue investing in people, and remember that some of life's most important lessons are found beyond the scoreboard.